Hello, welcome to Skye's Sweaty Record Review, the only new music review show hosted by a French professor immediately after getting off an elliptical. I'm going to be reviewing a new rap album by 6x9ine, which is stylized 6x9ine, and his album Dummy Boy. Now, he has apparently just been sentenced to life in prison for, I believe, pedophilia, gangbanging, and running drugs. Maybe even some murder in there. I don't know what. So, who knows what's going to happen to him, but he did release an album this week, and I want to review it. But in order to do it, I want to get us into the right mindset. Because this guy, more than anyone else, really represents a lot of what old people like me would think is wrong with modern hip-hop. In some ways, he is the low point of popular culture. So to get to that point, I first want to go backwards. I was listening while I lift weights before I get on the elliptical, and I listen to podcasts. I was listening to Will Ferrell talking to Conan O'Brien about the movie Step Brothers, and the review that he got from Richard Roper and Roger Ebert, the thumbs up, thumbs down guys. And he misquoted them, but I'm going to quote them here. Here's what Ebert said. "Sometimes I think I'm living in a nightmare. All about me. Standards are collapsing. Manners are evaporating. People show no respect for themselves." To which Richard Roper added, "Don't watch it on an airplane. Don't check it out on cable. Don't walk past it in the bargain basement bin where it's been sold." Very stern warnings against a movie which is, by all standards, a masterpiece, a classique. Step Brothers is an amazing movie, hilarious, artistically created, funny. But of course, if you just watched it, and you watched it from this perspective of what's happening to manners, and why is it so violent, and why is it so stupid, the old man in you can just despair. This isn't Woody Allen. What is this? This isn't the Marx Brothers. So I wanted to come to 6ix9ine's album from that perspective. Of the fact that when I see this guy, I approach him like Roger Ebert watching Step Brothers. Which is to say, as an old man who's not really the intended audience. In some ways, he's everything that just... So first of all, he's got face tattoos. Why would you get a face tattoo? You'll never get employment that way. He has rainbow-dyed hair. He has weird colored teeth. And all of this is offensive in the one way that it's, ugly fashion, and he's trying to look like a scumbag, and I think his production is Scumbag Productions or something like that. Like, he's trying to look like the greasiest, worst human being that you know. But the part that really gets me isn't even that he's a criminal. It's that he's a brand. It's that all this stuff is just to make him a more effective social media presence. The rainbow hair, the rainbow teeth, the face tattoos, they're all logos. He's creating himself into this brand of scumbag rapper. And even the cover of the album is a cartoon version of himself urinating a rainbow. It's all this nicely prepackaged thing for young people to feel like, ooh, this is rebellious. But really, it's just a package. On top of all that, this album is filled with misogyny. I believe there's a couple really bad homophobic slurs that he says in Spanish. The album is filled with the N-word, despite the fact that the guy is not even African American. He's a Mexican American. So all of these things are just indications that I'm just going to be going down thumbs. That I'm just going to be saying that I'm living in a nightmare. All about me, standards are collapsing. He can't say the N-word. I'm not sure who can, but I'm pretty sure he can't. The songs, every single one of them is stupid. It's like baby talk. Stoopid, that's a title. Fefe, TikTok, Kika, Mama, Mala, Kanga. I mean, seriously. He couldn't make it sound dumber. Even the album is called Dummy Boy. And there's a song called Dummy. And the first track is called Stoopid. It is a great praising of stupidity and ignorance. But is it good? The answer is sometimes. Sometimes it's pretty good. If I take off my old man hat and I accept the fact that it's misogynist, retrograde, horribly violent, terrible messaging, all of these things that I used to love about Eazy-E when I was 12 years old. And I just look at it as an album, just as music, in the abstract, not made by some guy who films underage girls, not made by some guy who is affiliated with the Blood gang in Brooklyn. And I just listen to the music, and I just listen to the rapping. It's actually pretty good. So I'm going to give you the guide. If you're an old man like me, or an old woman, or if your brain is old, and you can't get behind some guy with rainbow teeth screaming at you, how to listen to this album. I think the first 2 tracks are the way to listen to it. Stoopid is the first track, and you get his style, which is mostly yelling, just screaming and yelling and yelling. But with that yelling, there's not a small amount of charisma. And even though he's just talking about the stupidest stuff, his cadence is kind of interesting. The production throughout the entire album is a little bit better than what you might be expecting. So it's kind of the trap beat with the ricky-ticky hi-hat and the booming bass, but every song has at least some production element that makes it slightly more interesting. There's this song called TikTok, which is a very dumb song, but it has this really interesting guitar over it, and I don't really know why. So Stoopid is kind of like that. In some ways, it's just talking about having money and having lots of sex, lots of women, but it's catchy and it's kind of fun. Then the next track is with Nicki Minaj, and that's a pretty popular single called Fefe, I don't know. And this is cool because it has some of the only dynamics in the album. So he's yelling and screaming, and she's kind of talking her whole thing about how magical her private parts are, which she raps about a lot. And then in the middle, he just sort of says, I don't really want no friends. And you start to get a hint of maybe some of the interesting desperation that comes in. And that's one thing that people are missing out on the modern era of hip-hop and trap music and this stuff that just seems so mindless. There's a sadness and a desperation that didn't come before. The gangster rap of the 90s and the 2000s, no one was actually rapping about how empty their lives really are and the search for money really is. But it's really in this music. And I think you can see that in a song like Fefe, where he talks about not wanting friends. So those are 2 good examples. If you really I really enjoyed it, like while I was working out, just listening to this dude just screaming and yelling. Another great song for that is a track called Tati, which is he's just screaming, violent, misogynistic, angry, catchy music. There's 2 tracks with Kanye on it. And that's interesting because Kanye is my age. And so it's funny because it feels kind of like Kanye knows what's up. He knows that this guy is the future. This is the future of stupid rap. This is the future of pop rap. So it feels not so much like 6ix9ine is getting his validity from Kanye, but the other way around, that Kanye is staying relevant. The best one with that is the song Kanga, which is really upbeat, very exciting. I think my pithy review of it that I wrote on my phone while exercising, it's a misogynistic feast of empty-eyed misery posing as joy. So again, you get the sense underneath, they sense the emptiness of just rapping about just all this sex, but there's a sadness underneath it all. As a final note about old guys trying to stay relevant, a funny thing, Scott Storch produces a great track called Wundo, which is another one of the better tracks on this album. And if you don't know who Scott Storch is, he was the guy who he's probably more responsible for the West Coast sound of the 2000s than Dr. Dre. So he was the man behind Dr. Dre. He's just some white music producer from Long Island who's very talented, and he was the person behind the Chronic 2001. But what's funny is on this track, he has a very 2010 style introduction of a woman saying, Scott Storch. Like he's trying to sound like, Rick Ross or any of these other kind of modern rappers. It's kind of funny and interesting to see all these old people trying to latch on. They're not saying, don't watch it. They're not saying, I'm living in a nightmare. But also, maybe they don't quite understand these changes. There are 2 tracks entirely in Spanish, which almost destroy the album entirely. It feels like a terrible cash grab that just because he's of Mexican origin and because he can sing and rap in Spanish that he should. But it's not at all who this guy is. He's not some sensitive reggaeton dude. It's unlistenable. I had to skip it. I mean, it was terrible. And worse, it kind of showed that maybe he's a fraud. I mean, if you're going to have an album and it's big and it's dumb and you're just dumb and you're talking about how dumb you are and it's just violent and blah, blah, don't have some, like, heart pulley song with vocoders and auto tune. So there it is. On the whole, I'm thankful that this kind of stupid rap is at least better than a lot of the other stupid rap I listen to. He's not mumbling, so I'll give him credit for that. There's one song with a sort of mumble rapper. I'm trying to find the name of that song. Oh, doesn't matter. Fefe. Not Fefe, but Fefe. And like he's rapping with like a cough syrup rapper. And like you really get like, oh, at least I can understand this guy. Yeah, he can play on my lawn. So there you go. There's my review of 6ix9ine Dummy Boy. I'm not going to say don't watch it on an airplane, don't check it out on cable. I'm going to say that it has good moments. It is gloriously stupid. And time might tell that it's stupid in a good way. Or not. Time will tell. Okay, as far as the trivia goes, this one is an easy one. Of course, it's candy cane, double-filled Wegmans O's. That's sort of what this whole show is about. There's the camera.